Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Pickle Juice. It's your boy Zook, and I'm excited for another star-studded night of getting to talk about the sexiest, fastest growing sport in the country, otherwise known as pickleball. This stream's going to be a lot of fun. It's a Major League Pickleball Columbus event recap. Going to look into the matchups, going to look into who wins, who lost, some of the deeper stats that some people have maybe never looked into and how they correlate into success on the court. I'm excited to do that, but I'm going to be joined tonight by a guest of pickleball enthusiasts to help me get through this recap, starting with my usual partner in crime, Norway Johnny. Norway Johnny, how you doing?
Hey, oh man, how could you not be jacked after that weekend of action? I am pumped. We have plenty to talk about, so I won't waste any more time on my intro.
Second, a new friend of ours, someone that a lot of you watching this got the chance to see some of his work this weekend. I refer to him as Benny Numbers. Ben, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good, man. Glad to be here. Love talking data about just about anything. And, if it's pickleball, then that's just the pinnacle. So what could be better?
Yeah, I think today is going to be a fun episode, a little bit different than what we've done because of a lot of stuff that you're providing and basically pulling back the curtain of actually breaking down what we're seeing when we're watching it. Because sometimes we fall in love with, the around the post, the trick shots, all this stuff. But what's the actual crux of defining the difference between winning and losing in these matches that we all saw were so close this weekend? So excited to dive deeper into that. And last but not least, our president, our leader, a man who we are excited to have join us here again tonight, President Brooks. How you doing, brother?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. Excited to have you back. Gonna let you start off the show. We all saw the great event that was Columbus this weekend. You had a unique perspective, obviously looking at it through a lens, being the president of the MLP, that no one else got a chance to look through it at. Um, as a fan of pickleball and as the president of MLP, how do you think this weekend went?
I think it was the best MLP so far to date, all things considered. The venue was amazing. The crowd in Columbus, tons of people came out. The venue, Pickle and Chill, did an amazing job of harnessing the local community there. It was loud in there. The lighting was good. The place looked amazing. Just a good energy the whole time. Yeah.
I think we all saw that. I think we all saw that energy. I know Ben was there as well, so maybe he wants to chime in with a little bit of what he saw. He was also doing work when he was there, so a little bit more of a dual perspective in terms of a little play, but also some work. Ben, what did you see and experience at this event in Columbus?
Well, I think Brooks was working harder than me. I mean, he had a million plates spinning, but the venue was just absolutely stunning. The artwork that they had there, and Brooks put together this amazing display at the bottom of the court that didn't look like a display. A lot of times on TV, like you see a jumbotron or something, and it's just all blown out with color. But this just looked like it was like printed on a banner or something, and they did the replays on there. I don't know how it came through in the broadcast at all, or to what degree, but that thing was awesome, Brooks. I love that you guys did that, and it was just one of the most unique. I loved also the court was like this weird like gray color and all the advertising all around it, but then the court just like popped this vibrant blue, and it was just amazing. Everybody involved that made all that happen, kudos to them.
Yeah, it did
Yeah,
come through on the broadcast. I thought it was clearly the most professionally done production from that side of it when it came to the value that that stuff provides. It was a pleasure watching it on YouTube. The replays when if the ball was in or out to see it, it was legitimately one of the first, if not the first, Major League Pickleball stream that I watched live that I could have transferred, right onto my big screen on ESPN. And I don't know how they would have, done it differently. They were showing replays. They were analyzing what happened. They were showing stats. So really, they kind of did everything that was needed to be done for the first time ever with one of these productions. And we kind of all got to eat the fruits of that labor as viewers because it was a ton of fun to watch. Even my fiance, who she plays, but she doesn't watch, she was watching it because she didn't even get it. She's like, this is different than the stuff you're normally watching. Like, what are these graphics and stats? And I'm like, sit here and watch. And she gets it. And now she was in love with it. So all things positive, I think, coming from this weekend. And obviously what made this weekend greater than all these other things we're talking about, is the play on the court. And that's the crux of a lot of what I want to get into tonight. Between the Major League Pickleball website and the stuff that Ben put together, I think the type of deep dive that we can do into a tournament like this is really fun and really unique, and something that I hope more and more people do with pickleball as more and more people begin to take the professional side more seriously. So let me share the screen, and we could start down with the group standings. I'm going to go through the format a little bit. Brooks, comment if anything I say is wrong, because I'm sure there will be. There was 3 groups, 4 teams in each group, and they played everybody one time, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, it's World Cup rules. So you play everyone once. The top 2 move on. Where I want to start with this, and Johnny, I'll start with you first. Looking at Group A and seeing that the 2 teams that moved on were BLQK and Florida Smash, and seeing the 2 that didn't move on were the Jackrabbits and Lions. Before this kicked off, is that how you would say this group would have shaken up?
Well, first of all, absolutely. I think these are the 2 teams you would pick out of this group. No disrespect to the Jackrabbits or the Lions. Actually, I thought the Jackrabbits were really fun to watch as well. I know the Lions had the toughest go, but I think this was a very top-heavy group. Both before the tournament, you would have said that, and in retrospect. Brooks, great to finally get to chat with you live. Absolute pleasure getting to connect finally. But this was an entertaining group because with BLQK, they were by
On a
far
mission.
the most B+, like they at least had a B+ in every match they played, right? Like the actual matches within the games against the other teams. The only chink in the armor early was a little bit of their male doubles action. And even still, they were in every single game up till the very, very end. So you just knew that consistency was going to be helping carry them. I thought Team Clean Cause might have come in and thrown a punch in the knockout stage early if they could have got some sneaky wins. But, quality prevailed. They were absolute class throughout, and they put up plenty of great highlights. I think I watched Zane in the knockout stage run off the screen like 100 times just to see how the heck he got that yet. But no, fantastic job by them. And Florida Smash, you've got J-Dub on that team. That's going to be a great team, and obviously they've got some solid talent around him as well.
Ben, what do you think about the 2 that moved on? Are those the 2 you would have picked out of this group, the Florida Smash or BLQK, or any of the 2 that didn't move on between the Rabbits and Lions? Did you think they had a chance?
Yeah, I mean the earlier matches weren't too close. I think trying to remember.
Jackrabbits was Hunter Johnson hit a crossing shot against JW that missed by half of ball, and that would have put Jackrabbits into the playoffs in a dream breaker.
And see, that's where I was going with it. When I was going through the groups, I would have picked BLQK and the Jackrabbits. Mm-hmm. Look, everything is personal preference and opinion, but when I look at the Jackrabbits, that's Maggie, Vivian, Adam, and Hunter, who I'm a big fan of. Mm-hmm. And then when you look at the Florida Smash, you look at Michelle, Lacey, JW, and Travis. Is it nitpicking? Are those teams pretty even? I would think so. I think I would have, if you asked me to move on, I would have picked the Jackrabbits over the Florida Smash, and I would have felt pretty good about it. So for me, this was an upset to see the Florida Smash move on, but I don't think anyone didn't see BLQK moving on and getting that 1 seed to boot.
And to add, Zook, you're seeing Duper win out here, right? I know Brooks, you're going to champion that cause, but in this case, when you're almost half a point as a team at this high a level, That's a pretty decent gap. So again, everyone's got a puncher's chance. All things on paper don't matter until you play the game. But in this case, you do see Duper went out.
And just to be clear, also on the Duper rating is a power rating, which is like an index of the singles and doubles. So yeah, BLQK really, Rafa, Paris, Irina, top to bottom, they have 4 amazing singles players.
Yeah.
That you'd want on your team. And that Jackrabbits Florida Smash game was on the grandstand, and actually I went over and watched it, and Florida Smash was up 20-14, I think, in the Dream Breaker, and then the Jackrabbits were serving at 21-20 to win, wow. And Hunter hit that ball that was just
and what a great singles player he is! Right,
he's
just
so
a testament
good
to how good he is.
He's so good.
He's gonna get his.
He's someone when we're sitting here next year, like Hunter Johnson's gonna be him potentially. He's that good, I think. So okay, so Group A went that way. Group B.
One more thing, real quick on
yeah.
Group
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's kind of the volatility of the rally scoring and the format, which is part of what I think makes MLP so exciting, even though, again, the Dupers kind of won out here. But, when Florida Smash played BLQK on Saturday, they really showed up to play. And, actually, they didn't really show up in men's doubles and women's doubles. They dropped both of those, 21-15, 21-14. And then it came to mixed, and they had quite a battle and won the first mixed in a tight one, 22-20. The second mix, they actually had a lead that would have sent it to the Dream Breaker if they could have won. They were up 14-11.
Wow.
And but BLQK came back, and BLQK ended up taking the lead 19-14. So they went on an 8-0 run to put it away, basically. But Florida Smash could have maybe forced a Dream Breaker there, and you never know what'll happen. But it's just interesting how there's not that much kind of separating these teams, but yet still the better teams are often coming out.
No, and the point you bring up is great, and we'll move up to this later, but we'll go to it now when it makes sense to talk about it. That difference is what gets Florida Smash not a first round bye, and they end up losing to the Hard Eights. While because BLQK held on, they got a bye into the next round with a good matchup for them. So legitimately getting to that Dream Breaker, which we kind of know is like a Game 7 in sports. Doesn't matter where it is, who's in it. It's crazy. It's awesome. If that flips, I really think we're talking about a different winner. And that's no disrespect to BLQK, but I do think in a format like this, there's a significant advantage to getting a bye, and specifically the number 1 seed. So love that you brought that up.
So much riding on every point.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
They all know it, and they're all up for it.
I love that you just brought that up, because right there illustrates it all right there. And then Group B, I love this group. As I said, I'm a Mad Drop stan. This group, I'll start by saying I thought it would have went this way. Ranchers, Mad Drops, moving on. The Bus and Chimeras, albeit good. Just this one was even less about breaking down the teams, just people that I've learned to love. There's a little bit more on the Ranchers and Mad Drops with people that I followed over the past few months. If one between the Bus and the Chimeras were to go, they're both solid. I'm a Megan Fudge stan. So it hurts me to say not the Chimeras, but I like the guys on the Bus. I like Eric and I like Wes Burrows. Wes Burrows actually coming on the show next week. So I would say the Bus will go through. That's only if I would have to choose, but I'm Ranchers and Mad Drops all the way, and it stayed that way. Does anyone differ or have anything to say about this group?
I had the Bus as a standout or a dark horse to make it far. Given that
what about them?
Susanna Barr and Lauren Stratman with the in the women's slot, super strong women's team, and they played really, really well. And they actually had they had a chance on Saturday. They were up 21-14 in the mixed doubles game, or 20-14, and lost. Where that would have put them through.
Yeah, you bring up such a great point. That this was actually a group of chaos.
Yeah, this
because we
was the
didn't
group
know
of
if the
death from the
Rangers.
beginning.
Yeah, we didn't know if the Rangers were going to make it out of this group until the very waning moments of their last match. And actually, that was a great game. I'm glad you brought that up, Brooks. The Bus and the Ranchers. I mean, I was almost out of my seat a few times. I think I woke up a sleeping kid at one point because I just was like, I couldn't believe some of the shots that were happening in that game.
Yeah.
There was a lot of intrigue too at the end on social, on Twitter. I know I got a few comments back, which were really helpful, but you had Ignatowicz hit just an incredible, one of the best passing shots you'll see to finish a game on Eric Lang. And poor Eric Lang, I mean, I felt for my heart sank because he played a heck of a game. Man, also getting in that shuffle draft, we're going to, with the shuffle draft element, you get dropped from a team, get picked up by another team, you're out to prove something. He was battling in that game, and to lose that in that heartbreaking of a fashion early. And you're right, absolutely, the women's team held their own and did phenomenal against arguably, one of the best women's combos in MLP on the Ranchers with Brighton Kawamoto. It was a fantastic made-for-TV event. You have all the full aesthetic of that court, the crowd going wild. And Eric Lang, I think, just walked off. And Anna Bright mentioned on social later that, he messaged Ignatowicz afterwards. It wasn't Ignatowicz's fault. It was just, heat of the moment. And essentially he said good game to all those guys because he's a class act, very well respected on the tour. But, man, if anyone watching this didn't see that game from day one, that's a game to go back and watch on day one. And every single game in this group was, pretty good. It was well contested.
And then
the Bus was up 20-11 in that one, right?
Yeah. That's what. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they never scored again. A point.
Yeah.
And that's one thing the rally scoring can do, right? Like the avalanche can continue where, even if you drop one, you don't have to beat your opponent twice on their serve to then get the chance to get points back, right? It's like, okay, even in the middle of the rally, you were to lose one, just go out there and get it right back. Like, it's quick to gain momentum back. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these, bigger differentiations in the points as it gets towards the end, being able to catch each other. Because of the fact if they get hot, even if someone picks up a point, it's not quite over because you stop them once and they can go on that run again. So we saw a lot of these 20-14, 20-12, 20-11, where it was a lot tougher to close out because of the rallies that they could go on. Go over to Group C, unless anyone else have anything for Group B.
The only thing I would say, I know we brought Ben on for some stats, so at some point I know we're going to crack open the stats, but they tell quite the story on that match in particular, and you can see a lot of excitement. But even just on the MLP website here, it's such a great aesthetic. You can see the closeness of points scored in that group.
Yeah, right here. It's insane. And then Group C. I liked Group C. I thought Group C was... I was like, for me, I see ATX and I see the fives, and I'm like, okay, I think they both should make it. But then I did a deeper dive into hard eights and clean cause, and I had a tough time taking either of them out, especially hard eights. I grew to love hard eights because I'm all aboard the Andre Diascu bandwagon. I don't know if you guys are or what your opinions are of him, but he's one of my favorite players out there. I thought him and the Kyle Yates duo was a really cool one, and just an interesting aesthetic to look at because side by side, but their play styles matched very well. And then when we had Andre with Georgia, there was a lot of power in that team. So I quickly fell in love with hard eights. Clean cause, Deckel Barr and Frederick have both been pretty hot. We'll get into some stats about clean cause. They moved on in the further round, but didn't go too far in knockouts. And there's some stats why that Ben has for us. But, no one to really knock out between the clean cause and hard eights to add in ATX pickleballs and the fives. But do you guys have an opinion that differs from there? Is there someone that you would easily remove for either of those two teams?
Well, I mean, the fives and the hard eights came down to the Dream Breaker. And it was kind of like, it was the last championship court match in group play. And it was kind of like the first playoff game because the loser was in and the winner was out. And it came down to the Dream Breaker, and it was like I have to look it up, but it was like tied at 19 or something like that.
Yeah.
In the Dream Breaker, and it was crazy. It was also a little funny because I guess I can't remember who. I guess I should look it up because I have it. But Rob and Kyle Yates, both team colors are kind of yellowish.
Yo, I was talking about that on
same
stream.
size. I couldn't tell them apart.
I'm colorblind between orange and yellow, I think. So like that one for me was like tough.
And yeah, no, I mean, well, you've got two teams with numbers too, so that was pretty funny, just the whole feel of it. But man, I mean, that was one where I know Rob had a couple unforced errors late in that game, and I'm a huge fan of Rob. He's an Atlanta guy. I've heard his story on Pickleball After Dark and what he's doing from the sport from a just a takes perspective. I mean, he's quite the voice, you know, so I really appreciate Rob and what he does. And to battle back too, he's someone that's had really difficult time with injuries in the last year. So to come back, you know, this to me, I thought this would be a group that they would have came out close to the top on, if not top, definitely second place there. So I felt for them because I definitely think he was well deserving, and that's just a fun team, great media team too. When they're on social, the Fives are always putting out great content. They might be the most aggressive in terms of their content production out of all the teams. So you have to appreciate that as a fan. But I actually thought Clean Cause was a little bit of a dark horse team as long as the girls held serve. I love Dekel and Federico. Big fan of Federico, particularly from the single side. Obviously, he's been doing some phenomenal things this year in that. But Hard Eights felt like a team of destiny at the end of the day when it came to Championship Sunday. Cal Yates, hometown hero from where I'm from, especially after making. I know we'll talk a little bit more about the late stages, but you know, after having a pretty bad hurricane down in Southwest Florida here with Hurricane Ian, it was cool to see him make a phenomenal run. He's one of the OG goats, as they say. So I mean, this was kind of a roll of the dice, no pun intended, and it was fun to see Clean Cause, Hard Eights get some new blood in the knockout stages.
Yeah, so the 6 that ended up moving on were BLQK, Clean Cause, Mad Drops, Hard Eights, Florida Smash,
and Ranchers there at the bottom.
Oh, Ranchers. Brooks, when you were there, out of these 6 teams that moved on, was it clear that any of them were getting maybe more fans or support from the crowd based on for any reason than any of the other teams?
Other than maybe the Hard Eights ownership group had a big contingency with them. They were yelling "roll the dice" and like that stands out to me. Beyond that, as far as like the hometown crowd pulling behind anybody, I would probably have to say Hard Eights if I can think of one, just because they had the base that would get people riled up.
And they were organized. They were like doing chants and cheers, and they had the hats, and it was awesome.
Hey, what a tactic too. If you're another team owner right now, you got to be like, oh man, next time, you know, after this draft, we get to January, you're set. You got to send someone out there to represent. Make sure you're not
time to up your game.
Yep.
So the Hard Eights is one of those ownership groups that, you know, it's a group of finance guys from New York City, Tim Parks, Rick Chan, Greg. They're not LeBron James or Tom Brady, but they were there. They were loving it. Like they played pickleball all the time when they weren't on court. Just, you know, super engaged. And that's the kind of vibe that we like to have at MLP.
The one that stuck out to me, and again, just selfishly because I was already a fan of them, but like the Mad Drops was getting like everybody riled up, like Maggie and Lee, and when Lee threw her paddle, it went into the crowd accidentally.
Can we stop for a second and just talk about the behind the head shot?
Yeah, the show for sure.
It was
Brooks,
Mary was
that
insane.
was blowing up. I mean, just tell us.
That's how you win a rally while losing a rally.
I know.
Were you sitting by the court when that happened, Brooks?
Yeah, I was sitting behind my post was right behind the broadcasters, Dom and Chad, and we all were just like, we all stood up. You could hear Dom on the thing say, "What in the world?" You know, it was crazy.
I don't even know if I realized what happened at first. It was just so ridiculous. I was stunned. And so I probably went back and watched it again, like, a dozen times. There was no lack of highlights from this tournament, but that was by far one of the craziest things I've seen in pickleball yet. Hands down. Kudos.
We need to put a Mary Brasha celebration montage because the spins and the hops and
she was going insane. I love Mary.
I want a Mary Brasha Mad Drops hat with like a paddle holster in the back of the head. You just walk around like that. You just keep your paddle there when you're walking around.
So this actually brings up a really good point too. So Brooks, there's going to be a fan favorite award, correct, on future MLP events?
Yes.
That would have been my vote.
Yeah.
There you go. But we'll travel to what actually took place once we got to the playoffs. The first match being Clean Cause versus the Mad Drops. And what's great is now we can dive deep into Ben's amazing stats that will tell us a little bit more about what happened. We'll start with the women's doubles. And then the women's doubles, you can see that Clean Cause took it 21-15. Maggie and Miss Goldberg over Brasha and Whitwell. And if you look at this, it kind of seems that the shot accuracy lays itself into Clean Cause winning. Look, Goldberg and Brasha, they kind of X each other out. They both basically have the same amount of total errors and the same accuracy. But then on the outside, it looked like Lee struggled a little bit in this matchup while Maggie was able to hold her own. And that was really the difference right there from a shot accuracy standpoint, and a quick look into how you can look deeper into the stats and how numbers don't lie and how little things like this can shine a light as to, why did the score end up like this? Ben, is there other things that I know this is literally looking at one stat in a vacuum, which we should actually create no correlation from, but looking at this, is there anything else down the line that we should look at that combined with this tells us even a deeper picture of this match?
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't get points for accuracy.
Yep.
You lose points if you don't have accuracy. But at the end of the day, at the pro level, especially, at the rec level, you win points by being accurate. At the pro level, you win points by imposing your will on your opponent. And that's really where the rally wins comes in. So we take clean winners. That means it was not touched by someone's paddle below the wrist. And combine that with rally wins where they forced an error, where they hit a shot. It did hit somebody's paddle, but really you can't expect even a pro to be able to return that. Or, and sometimes there's a lot of judgment call in that, and we do our best with that to try to be consistent with what's, the 125 years of tennis that we're all familiar with. But it can be tricky, but I think it's very, very revealing. And then we combine winners and errors forced to get the rally wins. So how many times did your play actually win a rally? And it might be great. Maybe you could rack up 10 rally wins, but if you have 10 unforced errors because you're playing so aggressively, then you actually you were a net neutral for your team. You didn't actually win any points for your team. So that's where the player impact comes in. And it's just very simple. It's just subtracting your unforced errors from your rally wins. And so every rally ends with a winner, a forced error, or an unforced error. And we can assign kind of responsibility for that point to people based on that. And so we'll assign responsibility to the person that made the unforced error, and we'll assign responsibility not to the person who made the forced error, but the person that forced them to make the error, and the person that won the rally. You add those up, you subtract the unforced errors, and then you get a player impact score. One of the fascinating things about player impact score, if you add those up, so you've got for Clean Cause, you've got a +4 total. For Mad Drops, you've got a -3 total. So I'm going to go ahead and out on a limb and say that they won by 7.
I don't think they did. They won by 6.
They won by 6. So that's where because of rally scoring, some of the points, but usually it's right around. It's showing you the gap, and so
pretty close.
Not all a point's not.
Because what you got to win that last one on your serve. So there's stuff with that happening where it doesn't actually impact the score, but. Yeah, because actually, when you look at shot accuracy, I said that was really right here. Tells you the whole story, right?
Maggie.
Yeah. Maggie was aggressive.
Yeah,
Look at
Maggie.
that. Yeah, that's almost 13 hits per rally win.
She's
Yeah.
winning a rally every 13 times she sees a ball. Yeah.
So basically, to put a lid on the women's doubles, Clean Cause Mad Drops first quarterfinals, Maggie, we're going to say, for all the stats and looking at that, where all else was about even or a little on the negative side, Maggie was playing really, really, really well and a lot better than everyone else.
And one more quick thing, I know
Yep.
we're spending a little extra time on this because we're explaining
Yeah,
some
of
stuff, but
course.
just for the benefit of the audience, the hits and rally outcome on the right,
This is
you
sick.
can kind of see if you scroll up to the top and you can see the game flow. You can see early on up higher, that Mad Drops got out to a lead. Well, if you scroll down to the rally outcomes, you can see, well, why did they get a lead? Well, Raminzi and Goldberg were making unforced errors. They were
Yeah.
kind
They
of
were cold.
settling into the
Yep.
match. They were cold. And as it went on, if you scroll down, you don't see much of that anymore.
No, you
And
see
you
it
see instead
flip.
the unforced errors over on
Yeah.
unfortunately our dear friend Lee Whitwell's side in this case. But
About
yeah, you can get a real sense of the flow of the match and who's playing well and who's not, and who's like able to turn around or not by looking at that.
it was 7-1, basically because there were so many unforced errors from Clean Cause. And then you could just see there was the combination of the Mad Drops doing errors with Clean Cause hitting winners that it was a runaway from that point. It flipped.
Yep.
They went on a 20-8 run to end this match. And this I really this is for people like me where picture books still work. I can just kind of go down this list and see what's what. But we'll hop over to the men's doubles now, where Mad Drops comes back and takes this one.
This was another fun match, and
Yeah.
obviously the women set the table for the Clean Cause early. But this was a fun one because you had 4 just high quality men's players really battling it out. Let's just here again. You look at that player impact, like Ben was saying, and what do you got? You got a net -1.
It was
Right.
almost, I mean, because they were all kind of canceling each other out. They were all playing
Yeah, that's
very well.
even, right? +1 to -2. You would think they won by 3, and they won by 3. But that's how close these guys are, man. Like, we're talking about the difference between some being a -1 player impact and then a guy being a 1 and like just being a 0 is a positive in this one. It's crazy. It's crazy. And also the thing is there's different ways, right? Like, because your player impact is 1, you can get that from being a low scoring and low unforced error, or maybe you're a wild man, right? You're a 7-6. So also looking into that breakdown could be important for making pairings in the future of wanting to put people that play different ways. Someone that is out there swinging, you set them next to someone who's a little bit more efficient. Maybe some matchups you want 2 guys going all out. So a lot to do with this.
Brooks, was there anything that stood out to you from this match, if you recall it? I'm sure you do, but anything that stood out to you specifically about the play that these guys had?
I don't remember that one specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, you get Julian Arnold, and you get you get that excitement up. Dekel, I know when he was going as well. I mean, what a phenomenal tournament overall for Dekel Bar.
Yeah.
But this was one that I thought was just fun from the beginning. This overall match. I mean, these 2 teams, because I believe they went to Dreambreaker as well, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah,
Ben?
and that's where I'm going to go next with this. Just so we make sure to cover everything. We'll hop to the Dreambreaker after they split the mixed doubles. And the Dreambreaker is here. Okay, this is going to be sick to look at. So the Dreambreaker was taken by Clean Cause, 21-8. This was insane to watch. Sad as a Mad Drop stand.
You should zoom into that match flow too, because just when you thought Mad Drops was going to pull away with it, it flipped.
Mm-hmm. It flipped twice, I think. It was like early.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Clean Cause was running away. Then Mad Drops took it. Let's look at the quick individuals real quick. Total hits. Dekel
and again,
played
now
very
we're looking
well.
at this. Now we're looking at this from a single standpoint, right? So you think about the way Dekel Bar plays. Maybe it's going to be a little more cat and mouse on a singles perspective. It was him and AJ Kohler. I think AJ Kohler, and maybe we'd have to look at the stats. I think he had a few errors late as well. So you can look at maybe the score outcome on the right, the heat map with the colors.
Yeah,
And
and
you
we
can
need to
probably
add
see a
to
little bit.
this. We need to add to this like the points scored in each of these versus battles that I have, but
I
didn't
loved
get
what I'm
around to that
looking
this
at.
time.
So it was 21-18. The men were the men were 5 and -2. So the men on clean cause did very well, but the women on clean cause did very bad. But the men did good enough. The men in clean cause beat the men in mad drops by more than the females the other way won. So this was not a runaway at all. This was one team doing really well at one thing and the other team doing really well at the other, and seeing who can do their best better than the other. I like this type of matchup.
I'll tell you, this was like a boxing match.
Yeah,
And I'll
that's what
tell
I'm
you
trying to
what the
get at.
turning
Yeah.
point was, and you can see in the hits and rally outcome on the right. So let me just take you up to the top, because it starts out with Federico and Julian Arnold, which both those guys are very familiar with each other. They've played on APP events recently this year, both immense singles success too. These guys have been very hot in the end of the summer with their singles play. They cancel each other out early. Dekel, and this just paints the picture. Dekel gets a little momentum for clean cause early too over AJ. You see what happened a little bit with the women, kind of held serve. Lee and Goldberg. Actually, Lee came out swinging at the beginning of that Dreambreaker.
That was so
She's
great to watch.
such a
She was like,
crafty
dude,
veteran. She
yeah.
gets the Dreambreaker. She understands what she's got to do. It was fantastic.
This is
But
where
then-
she threw her paddle.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. And then let me just tell you though, like
She let him keep it too. She let him keep it.
That's fair. So Julian comes back, kind of, knocks out Staxrud a little bit early there. You can see he got real hot. Andiamos were shouting left and right. But you fast forward just a little bit, and the third time they play each other, Fed gets kind of the last laugh there.
Yeah.
So really in a match, those two guys traded blows from a singles perspective, hitting passing shots. It was high octane when they were on the court. And then it was that shift into the more cat and mouse game between Dekel and AJ. And again, a few mental errors late on AJ's part. And I think that really set the tone for the end of the match.
And it's funny because Federico took all 4 of those. Let me see. Did he? Yeah, he took all 4 of those, and that made them even. So it was legit back and forth that whole time, and that made Julian Arnold and Federico like exactly even. So that was just the timing one in terms of he got the last one, which I guess was the most important one. But yeah, wow.
Oh, that's Dekel that you're seeing in the second column there. So Dekel closed it out.
Yeah, Dekel closed it out. Sorry, I was saying Federico though took the 4 from Julian to really turn around, and between Julian,
I think he took 3 or 4 on
3
that.
and 1.
3 out of 4.
Okay, 3 of 4. And when he took 3 of the 4, that then made their player impact for this Dreambreaker exactly even. So it made, Federico basically quote unquote hold serve against a great other player to then let his teammates do like basically fill it up, where he came into that one probably he was -2 at that point. So he probably felt a lot better.
If Julian repeated what he did in their
Exactly.
second showdown, they win the match.
Exactly. Okay,
and
so this one
a big ripple effect for the rest of the tournament.
There was lots of finger wagging going on in both directions.
There was. It was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
One to go back and
Staxrud wasn't very. Didn't really enjoy Arnold very much in this entire match. I'll just say that.
Again,
So-
if you don't get MLP at this point, go watch this match. Like from beginning to end, this was a real fun one, and what a way to set the tone for the knockout stage.
So the hard 8s then took the Florida Smash in another Dreambreaker to move on and kind of create what we had in the semifinals. The first semifinals was BLQK versus Clean Cause women's doubles. BLQK 21-10.
This is where you start to see some disparity here from the women's game.
Look, we always got to be honest, and we're not saying anything negative about a player overall. This one came down to Irina and Miss Goldberg canceled each other out. Harris played very well, and Maggie struggled a little bit in this match. That's not to say anything about her game overall. The stats just show she struggled a little bit, which was quite interesting with this matchup. We were talking about it behind the scenes where we didn't actually think she would have struggled in this one as much. but the combination of a teammate on each side canceling out and then one doing really well while the other struggling quite a bit reflected easily in the score of 21-10. This one was an easy and quick one, pretty much in rally scoring type setting. Fellas, was there really anything else besides, Paris doing really, really well that one and no one on the other side being able to keep up with her? She was in the zone in these knockout stages.
Yeah.
Well, if you take a look too, you can see actually Paris didn't get a ton of hits, right? They were really avoiding Paris. She got 61 total hits. She made a lot of work.
Yeah.
She made it matter, right? When she did it. Obviously she had a couple winners there. She really had that impact, as you see that impact score. So minimal errors, but a decent win rate. And obviously it forced several errors as well. So it was just really solid, efficient, like hyper efficient performance from her. But you can't take anything away from Irina Tereshchenko. Obviously she carried the load in terms of the shots. Did all that she needed to do to really, again, like you can see they got out to an early hot lead and they just kept the floor, pedal to the metal.
And yeah, Tereshchenko and Paris both got the same amount of winners, but like you said, in half the amount of hits from Paris. So, a lot of times if you're not in the game a lot and it comes at you, you're just trying to get it over. She has that aggressive, killer-like mentality where she was like, hey, they're keeping it away from me. I'm not just going to dink it when I get my chance. I'm going to try and do something that creates winners. And it clearly worked out. A hits per rally of 10 while getting 6 rally wins with that low amount of hits. Really incredible. Then we can go to the men's. BLQK took it again in a little bit of a closer one. So I'm interested to look at the stats. If you look at the game flow, BLQK was up a lot early. Maybe we'll look at the hits and rally outcome chart to track why that happened.
Yeah, there are 2 phases of this game. There was the first phase where there was rally scoring, and then there was the second half of the game where they were stuck at 20-20 and 21-20 for a long time.
Yeah, there was like 8 rallies.
So 10,
20, I think, or something.
Yeah. All down here. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
12, yeah.
12. Love that rule. Love that rule.
There's not a lot of unforced errors there. There was just such a high level of play.
Yeah.
Just 2 unforced errors, in that last 15 rallies there. People were just playing amazing. It was fun to watch. That'd be if you want to go watch the really fascinating, ending, go watch that one with all those winners and forced error.
Yeah, they even had a 42-shot rally at one point. You saw obviously, you tend to see long rallies in the men's game.
Yeah, 42.
But this was a war, and BLQK again. The one chink of the armor in the group stage was the guys didn't hit their full potential. I don't think they had a couple of real close losses that really could have gone either way, but they did what they needed to here.
Everyone knows this right here. The 2020 is that moment when you're playing pickup basketball on your home court and it becomes like a win by 2. And suddenly everyone that was like lollygagging on defense is, hand checking, rebounding, boxing out. That's what happens when this becomes, down to the wire. When it's
you can see in that chart at the bottom you showed, or the chart at the top actually. You can see that the way they played changed. So early on, you see every like 4th rally or so, there's a really short one because people are willing to take risks early in a rally. And once it got tied, it was down to the wire. They were being so careful, and
it was all like 9, 10, 12. Yeah,
but when they saw their chance, they took it, and they were successful because they weren't making unforced errors.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It really stays in that sweet spot of not letting a rally go on too long and trying to take your shot, but we're not seeing any of the 1s or 3s that we see earlier on where someone's more willing to say, me and my buddies call it, a 6-4 shot, a shot you would hit at 6-4 that you would never hit, at 20-20, and that's what's leading to these 1s and 4s. So yeah, great point, and really illustrates just what I said about the home court for basketball, like right here, playing elite style down the stretch.
All I got to say is early, like throughout this entire match, though, the total errors, 24 to Clean Cause, 18 to BLQK. So BLQK kept the mistakes lower by about 6 there. But BLQK actually forced 20 errors to the 9 that Clean Cause forced. So
Oh,
it was an
wow.
11 forced error swing there on the part of BLQK. I mean, that's pretty significant.
And then that one was done in the next mixed doubles. It didn't go to a dream breaker. It didn't go to a fourth. Similar with the next semifinals, which was hard eights and the ranchers, that only had to go to both mixed doubles, and the hard eights took 3 of 4 and moved on. And that led us to this finals of BLQK versus the hard eights. And we'll look through the story of this one, starting with the females doubles. The hard eights taking it 21-19. I gotta say, CGL Miss Sierra, someone who was totally off my radar until this weekend. And that's not on her, that's on me. She is fantastic. And I think even being on the hard eights, playing with certain people may have brought out even more of her. And she was playing with some powerful players that maybe she was like, hey, I could swing it a little harder, and she has that power in her game. So I thought that was cool. But looking through this, let's see if we can find any stat that, it seems to be. Let me ask you this, Ben. If the player impacts are positive on both sides, and one team is just a little bit more positive than the other, is that just a well played game? That someone outplayed the other.
It's just a cleaner game. Rec play, those would all be negative numbers because it's all about unforced errors.
You'd expect that in a finals match, right? You make it that far, you're playing pretty good pickleball.
Like, this is brilliant pickleball. Like, to be 21-19 and to have player scores of 7 and 5 means that they were just playing elite style with people winning points. All these points, people winning. I want to see how many. The hits per rally, much lower on the hard eight side.
Hits per rally, yeah.
But they did win this. But yeah, no, a great match on either side. Was there anything that stuck out to anyone here about this match other than this matching up with what I saw, that it was a high pace, high octane, pretty straightforward back and forth. Whoever had the ball last was going to win type game.
Well, it's not about the stats, but what I really loved about it is I felt built a little tension because BLQK was the favorite, and so having them face a 1-0 deficit was like, all right, now we're getting, this is going to be interesting, because the previous two finals were 3-0 finals, if I recall correctly, and I can't remember the 2021 final.
That's correct. Yep.
And you actually bring up my own emotion back up. Like, I was one sitting there as rooting for the hard eights, being like, look at this. Like, look at what we got here. And like, for me, it was like Andre. So I was like, it wasn't even him that picked it up. Andre is going to do it for me. Like, this was like the best case scenario for me.
Was he on your MLP fantasy team?
No, but he'd be my Igor Shesterkin. No matter what pick I have in the first round, I would take him if he's there. But okay, so then we go here, and it was 21-14, and this is where we kind of saw Rafa started leaning a little bit in this match. His emotions came out. He started playing well. Johnny said a few times the only thing holding BLQK back early on from just slaughtering was the men weren't maybe playing up to the duper ranking that they had over everyone else. And once they started doing that, we saw what happened again. Another example of a positive on the men's hard eights getting 6. But look at Rafa alone. Rafa alone had 9 rally wins and not a single forced error. Ben, was there many other people that played a more solid game than Rafa did in this match?
Certainly not under the pressure of the finals, I don't think. The highest number we saw in player impact was 14 by Decobar in mixed doubles, I believe, in the quarterfinals.
Wow.
Which was just
killer game. He had a killer game. That was a wild one.
But Hewitt, a lot of times in most matches I remember seeing, he's in the low 90s, 91% accuracy. He barely missed. He only made 2 errors. Both of them were forced. Yeah, and he was creating rally wins, and he just played out of his mind. It was just amazing.
And look how many shots he got. Like, you can see they were going after him, right? Because of what you said, his percentage was maybe a little lower normally. Like, is this the best he's ever played? Like, and that's not saying he's never seen it. It'd be tough to play better than this. So has he maybe played this level before? Sure. But like Ben said, with the stakes that are at hand,
Clutch
That's-
player, right? Yeah, I think early in the beginning of the tournament, I mean, if you were to nitpick where the men were struggling, I mean, Hewitt wasn't playing his cleanest pickleball early in the tournament. So to see him come out
Peak
and
at the right
he
time.
handled business. I mean, that's what a championship team does. These guys have won before. I think when you talk about a team mentality, right? What goes beyond the numbers here? They've been there, they've won. They probably felt they should have won if they had healthy Paris. No disrespect to their fill-in in the last tournament, but I mean, these guys came in with the confidence. I think we said it earlier, touched on it earlier. They came out with a mission, and they knew they wanted to win this really badly.
It's really impressive with all the success they've had. It really felt like they were the hungriest team there. Florida Smash, Mad Drops seemed pretty hungry too. I mean, everybody, what it seems like to a fan. I'm not saying that they don't want to win, but just the energy they had, and just when they would exclaim when they got a winner or forced an error, it was a little bit terrifying. I think if that was those other teams facing them.
And then it went 1-1 into the first mixed doubles, and they kept Rafa on hot hand. And again in this one, Rafa played well, but then was also matched by Arena, them both going 3-3.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Yates may have actually been the best individual player in this match based on rally wins, based on percentage, based on a lot of things, but it was clear. He did try and cover the court as much as he could, but they were just hitting the ball to CGL over and over, and they kind of found something, and the announcers were talking a little bit that sometimes you find something and there's just something that's working that game on that individual player, and you could see that Rafa and Irina were talking about it. So they kind of found what worked for them and started leaning on it.
And could we throw this to Johnny real quick? Because a lot of the matches I saw Sierra play, I was impressed with how well she was doing in firefights, but she was still 94%, 95% accurate. In this one, she's only 91% accurate. And I don't know if we have time to get into it, but there's no cross-court dinking in this one because Terashenko lines up on the left. And so that, I think, threw her off. Johnny might know more than me.
Yeah, Ben, you and I chatted actually on Twitter a little bit about this because live, we were both watching the same thing. So I think it was just a really savvy tactic just from two real solid, veterans of the game between Irina and Rafa. They had Terashenko right in front of Gaitan Leach. So for her, I mean, in the firefights, if it's going to speed up, I mean, Irina was all over it. Yates played aggressively, but I really do think that had a lot to do with, hey, the speed ups were coming quick. She wasn't getting in her rhythm. It led to more of those unforced errors. And that's a really high error number overall.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like BLQK did almost like a box and one defense or something where they're like, let LeBron get his or let Steph Curry get his, but make sure no one else gets it. So that's why Kyle, they were fine with him getting his 5 because they maybe gave him a favorable matchup to create, matchups that as a team they were able to take advantage of. And that's where the individual versus team side of it kind of can counteract each other, and how these stats, sometimes you got to realize that they were willing to give Kyle that type of play to take because they thought overall for their team it would work out better. So I enjoy that. I'm happy you guys brought it up, the case where, they weren't lined up cross court. So the firefights were looking a little different. And then we go to the closeout match.
It's the advantage in the last one, Zook. It's also the advantage of having a left-handed guy on your team.
Yeah.
It just it can put an awkward match.
Yeah, because
she was
going cross court all weekend until
I enjoyed watching Ben on the 5s as well.
Yeah.
Just that little bit of that change. You could tell when people are early on in those matches. I'm a lefty in basketball, so I get it. When people guard me the first time, they're letting me go left, and then it's weird for them. So definitely the way the spin goes and stuff like that, it's the opposite. When you catch a football from a lefty thrower versus a righty, it goes that way. So points around.
I love on the pickup courts getting a lefty that knows how to play. It is a lot of fun.
Well, not me, just a lefty.
It's
just
a lot
lefty.
Of fun.
Not the second part.
One last thing on this. It's just, this is why doing what we're doing now, I know this is the first time we're getting to do a deep dive into some of these critical stats. It's going to be just incredible to see when there's enough data points, long term to aggregate some of this data and say, hey, here's the Moneyball side of pickleball, right?
Yeah.
When you can start seeing like, hey,
100%.
it may be worth drafting a left-handed player earlier in a round, even if their duper's a little lower than another player, just because of what I can do strategically. We're going to get to see that. It's maybe not next month, but come, end of 2023, I think some teams are going to take a look at these data points and make some unique decisions. You might see some different looks out there, whether people are stacking further right, what have you. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And then obviously even more so when we get specific players, really see how they match up with certain looks, etc. This is really exciting stuff for me.
Absolutely. And in this one, I think the big story here is Hard Eights really pushed and they tied it at 18, and we almost got a Dream Breaker, our first finals Dream Breaker.
I was going nuts. I was going nuts for a Dream Breaker.
Fans were.
Yeah, we got we're up against the hour, so I definitely want to make sure to cover this last match because it was what I thought was crazy. Another example, I always want to come here and I never want to see negative. That's the goal. I just want a great match where everyone played well. This was a case of, look, Andre, whatever you want, Andre matched Zane. So then when you look at Georgia versus Paris had that look about her the whole match that came through here. And she was a +3 while Georgia was a 0. So not even a negative, just not playing as good. And I guess when you see a match that determines the end of a tournament, you're happy that we're not seeing any -4s or -5s and someone completely dropped the ball. BLQK, both players went out there and played a positive game and took it from the other team. So that's fun to see.
I was a little surprised how many shots. I mean, because they kind of went after Andre a little bit. Like he had a lot of shots, and he was putting away a lot of.
But they targeted Georgia with the firefight, so 8-5 or 8-7, slightly.
Yeah, they targeted Georgia with the firefights, Andre with the third shots.
Yep, and you can see that in the low hit to start ratio. Obviously, that does paint the picture there too. And again, obviously Georgia was a little less accurate on hers, at least according to the data. I mean, this was a fun match. There's a lot on the line, and it's that, again, that championship mentality, right? Now you're talking, just here and there, an error could change the game. And actually, I think the game ended on an error, if I'm not mistaken, on Andre.
Let me see. Yep, it did. And that broke my heart when I was sitting there watching that.
Hey, Kyle Yates at the beginning of this match said if they were going to win the championship, or actually at the end of the semifinal, said he would be donating his winnings
I saw that was dope.
Hurricane Ian. I was like, oh, man, that's fantastic. So it was hard for me not to root for him. Even though I picked BLQK before the tourney, I was like, man after my heart there. That was pretty rad since, I've got family that were affected by that too. So I was pulling for him. But, hey, they did what they needed to, BLQK, and it was a phenomenal cap to an awesome tournament. This one goes down in the record books for sure.
Yeah, this was unbelievable. I did as good as a job as I could, keeping it within the hour. The only thing we wanted to cover is we wanted to do a what's next with you, Brooks. I know there's a lot of people are excited for this. There's going to be more next year, and we might be seeing more of not exactly what we saw this weekend, but even more fun and interesting things. So I'm sure we can get some time with you coming up on the next few weeks to maybe do
much deserved.
What's next for season 3, 2023. And I know a lot of people are trying to figure out what's going to be different. So, but as always, appreciate your time, President. I know you got a game tonight you're headed to, so go enjoy that. Ben, Johnny, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot in the future.
Can't wait for the MLP draft date, Brooks. Can't wait.
Have a great night, chat. Appreciate you all tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks,
it was
all.
fun.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.